Clerk, call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy C. Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Andy H. Wynn, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation this morning will be delivered by Dr. Jeff Burdett from First Baptist Church in Hurst. Welcome, sir.
Great to be here.
Jeff serves on the HE school board and has for many years. In fact, I guess you went on the school board when I went off and came to the commission.
Yes, sir. That's true.
Welcome.
Great. It's good to be here. Let's pray together. Lord and God, it is a wonderful season in which we celebrate your coming to our earth. You came and you performed miracles of healing. You came and brought a message of hope. You came and you were laid in a manger of hay. We're glad that you did. And while that truth surrounds and supports us all year long, it's especially at this season that we remember and we rejoice over the fact that you came and you care. Enough that your angels that heralded your birth said that you came that peace might be on all this earth and goodwill extended to those on whom your favor rests. And so I pray that your favor will uniquely rest upon those in this room who lead and love so well, and that your goodwill would be extended to all in Tarrant County, especially in this season of great joy. I ask for your blessings upon them as they seek to serve and bless others. I ask it in the name of the one for whom this season is named, the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Thank you, Judge, Commissioners. Y'all have a wonderful Christmas.
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you.
Members of the Court, we have one announcement for you this morning. That concerns the Administrator's Office, item 8A5. This concerns a memorandum of understanding between the county and the city as it relates to the Justice Assistance Program. We're going to ask that that particular item be held for 1 week. We need to clarify some language on the document, so we intend to bring that back to you next week. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Commissioner Wynn, I believe you have a proclamation.
Yes, sir. I would like to move for the ratification of the proclamation shown on item 6A to be presented this Saturday.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of November the 29th. Move approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Now comes our one of my favorite times of the month. We having problems down there, Debbie? Is employee recognition, and it's my opportunity to again recognize just some of the employees in Tarrant County who I think do so much to make it such a great place to live and to raise our families. And I again want to thank each one of y'all for your commitment to public service. You know, the numbers have grown, and we may have to switch things up a little bit next year. We have seen the number of folks celebrating their 20-year anniversary go from around 100 a year to next year it's going to be 150. The last 2 months we've had close to 20 people in each one of these months celebrating 20 years. So we're at least considering a possibility of going to where we're going to recognize it at 25, because I didn't want to take Commissioner Johnson out of this. I think January he's celebrating 25 years with the county. So it'll just give me an opportunity to, not mess up everybody's name quite as much.
Well, surely you can get mine straight.
I might be able to. It's going to be
I
a
would
struggle.
like to speak in favor of all of those who have been waiting for that 20-year mark to get to have their conversation with the judge. I think it is patently unfair to change the rules in the middle of the game.
I think each one of them should call him and talk to him.
There's a couple of you out there who I'm waiting to hear from already, and may hear from you here in a few minutes. We're going to start with our 5-year employees. As I call your name or what sounds like you're similar to your name, please stand. Pronunciation was never my strong point in school. So as we go through this, please stand and remain standing until I get finished with your particular group so that we can just show you a little bit of the appreciation we have for the service you've given to Tarrant County. So we'll begin with Rosa Castilla with Constable Precinct 1, Elizabeth Garcia, Sheriff Confinement, Leonard Gardner, Facilities Management, Kyle Gibson, District Attorney's Office, Jorge Gonzalez, Sheriff Confinement, Diane Griffin, Sheriff Booking, Richard Hartman, County Clerk, Ronald Jones, Sheriff Confinement, Robert Levine, District Attorney's Office, Ronald Morris, Sheriff Confinement, Richard Pleasant, County Clerk's Office, Charles Reed, Sheriff Booking, Felix Rivera, that's not it, Sheriff Confinement, Richard Salas, Sheriff Confinement, William Shepard, Information Technology, right? Leo Stanley, Facilities Management, Leo. Walter Steele, Constable Precinct 4. Christina Tennyson, Constable Precinct 3. Cheryl Tyler, Constable Precinct 6. And Paul Wright, Sheriff's Courts. Let's recognize these 5-year employees. Thank y'all very much. We appreciate you. Now for our 10-year employees. Terry Abenshine, Information Technologies. Joe Abrigo, Tax Office. Joanne Adams, Tax Office. David Ansley, Juvenile Services. Carol Byer, CSCD. Stephen Fulmer, Public Health. Christine Harrison, Information Technologies. John Hubbard, District Attorney's Office. Julie Johnson, CSCD. Suzanne Jones, Information Technology. It's Susan. I heard that. I may not be able to pronounce well, but I can hear well. Michael Cole, Sheriff Confinement. Paul Krieg, Medical Examiner's Office. Herschel Tabay, District Attorney's Office. And Curtis Thompson, Juvenile Services. These are our 10-year employees. Let's give them a hand. Now for our 15-year employees. Nicole Allen, Sheriff Confinement. Billy Craig, Sheriff Courts. Bradley Cunningham, Information Technology. Yvonne Flores, Information Technology. Richard Gonzalez, Juvenile Services. Dexter Hall, Pretrial Services. Russell Husky, Information Technology. Karen Kaiser.
Go, Karen.
Kaiser. Commissioner Precinct 2.
That's right.
Francis Leday, Public Health. Christina Montalongo, Juvenile Services. And Stephen Sparks, District Attorney's Office. Sparky! Let's give these 15-year employees. Now for our 20-year employees. Our first is Elton Batista, Juvenile Services. Started out in Juvenile Services in Dallas, and I guess spent 5 years over in the Dallas area, and then saw the light and moved to Tarrant County. Has spent his time in the detention center, and he's a counselor there. When I asked him about the more memorable moments, he said, you know, it's the chance to see some of the kids and the changes that have occurred to them over the period of time. When I asked him what he liked most, he said it really was the family atmosphere and the friendly workplace. And he said, I just enjoy coming to work every day. And Elton, we appreciate you doing that for the last 20 years. Thank you very much. Next is Greg Bro, Juvenile Services for 20 years. Actually, it's been 25 years. He left for 5, or he had 5 years, he left and he came back. He's always been in the Juvenile Services area. He's now a supervisor for one of the courts in the intake unit. When I asked him about his more memorable moments, he said he remembered the time from 77 to 82, which was the first 5 years, when the department was much smaller. He was there, and Judge Moore, I believe, was there at that point in time. When I asked him what he liked most, he said, I love the folks that he has a chance to work with. He said, you know, after I left, I recognized that it was my calling and that this is what I was really meant to be. And he said, I was very glad to get a chance to come back. He said, it's a great atmosphere. The people that he works with, they really do want to see the kids succeed. And interesting, when he came back, the first day he came back to work, he met his wife. Now, they didn't get married until 2002. And this was in 91. And I asked him, I said, did it take you 11 years to get her to say yes? And he claimed he came the fifth on that. And when I talked with her, she wouldn't tell me either. Because, guess what? She celebrates her 20 years today. But now she wasn't able to make it. That's good, because I didn't think she was going to be able to make it. And my staff, when they pulled up her name, said, you don't have very much on this person. Are you sure you talked with them? But we'll get down to her, Patricia Salinas, in just a few moments. But again, he said, I looked across and I knew that that's the lady I was going to marry when I saw her the first day. So, again, that's news to him.
It took a long time.
Greg, thank you for the 25 years you've given to Tarrant County. We very much appreciate that. And we're glad you left and came back, because had you not, you might never have met your wife.
I know that.
Okay. Next is Jackie Burns. There she is. Started in the old, she's with CCC number 1. She started out in the old building, actually started out recruiting with the Sheriff's Department. Then she got her peace officer's license. She actually worked in HR for a while in the hiring area, and then went back to the Sheriff's office, worked as a bailiff, worked as a secretary for a little bit, and then went to courts as a bailiff and has been there ever since. When I asked her about a more memorable moment, she said, it was the shooting in the old courthouse, and she said that's just something that, anyone who was around at that point in time, you just don't forget it. She said, when I asked her what she liked most, she says, I really enjoy working with people in my court. She works with Judge Hill's court, and she said she's just a great judge to work with, and that she really loves really everything about her job with the county. Before she came to the county, she'd spent 13 years in the banking community, and she said, after getting to county and public service, she said, I really enjoy being around people, and this has been a great deal for me. Jackie, we appreciate the 20 years you've given us. Next is Kyle Cox. He's in the Sheriff's Department. There's Kyle. Started out in law enforcement in I guess 1978 at SMU and went through the Dallas Police Academy. Was actually chief of police, I guess, in it was Cockrell Hill, wasn't it?
Yes.
When you scared me there, I thought maybe I got mixed up.
Still scares me.
He said when he came to work for Tarrant County, he worked in the pods in the corrections center in 1991, and now is in the release area and works in classification and helps in the courts. When I asked him what he liked most, he said, it was the people that he'd had a chance to work with. He said, the benefits are all right too, but he said, I've made a lot of great friends, and the whole department has just got the team attitude about everything that goes on over there. Kyle, we appreciate very much the 20 years you've given to Tarrant County. Thank you. Next is Daniel Dees with the Sheriff's Department. He wasn't real sure he was going to be able to make it, so he's not, I don't see him standing around here, so he is celebrating 20 years, so when you see him, be sure and congratulate him on his 20 years of service. Next is Randy Flonoy. Started off, he is in CCC number 5, started off in the Sheriff's Department, was there for 3 years, then was transferred into the probation area in 1994 and working in the felony gang cases as well around in that area. Then he was moved to a DWI caseload, then to court services as a backup officer, and then was promoted to senior probation, I guess, court officer in CCC number 5. When I asked him what he liked most, again, it was having an opportunity to work with the offenders and see some turnaround and to see the ones that turned out positively in that regard. When I asked him what he liked most, it was that he had enjoyed all his assignments, really, but he has now, his assignments, I guess, now in the domestic violence area. He said, I like the benefits. He said, I really enjoy working in the probation department. Randy, we appreciate very much the 20 years you've given to Tarrant County. Thank you. Next is Brent Harper, Juvenile Services, 20 years. Started in the juvenile area as a detention officer, then became the field officer out in the northeast area. When I asked him what he liked most about working, he said it was really helping people and just making sure that, they were there and that it was more than just a paycheck, that he really, I think, enjoys that part of being able to help the kids. The respect the department has around the state, and, he spoke on and on about the directors that he's had a chance to work with, Randy and Carrie, and the fact that really throughout the state our department is very well respected and very well thought of. He said, it's really neat to watch and again to see the positive attitude that we have with some of these kids. Brent, we really appreciate your time and your 20 years with the county. Thank you. Next is Jessica Hutcherson with Jessica, sorry about that. 20 years with the HR department. She actually started in the auditor's office in the payroll area, and then in 2003, when we put the SAP program in, she moved over to retirement and to the insurance area. When I asked her of a more memorable moment, she said, I've had a lot of them, but one that stands out was when she got married here in the courtroom back in 2003. When I asked her what she liked most, she said she feels like she's got the best job in the country. She said the people are nice, they're wonderful, a wonderful office to work in. She works with our retirees, and every year about this time, I guess, they're coming in and they're asking questions and enrolling, and she says it's just great helping them out. It's really a family atmosphere, and that it's a spirit of helping one another throughout the county. She had been self-employed, and when she came to the county, what she found is that they do have a great system of benefits, and at the same time, it's just a great place to work. Jessica, we appreciate very much the 20 years you've given us. Thank you. Next is Michelle Hartman, District Attorney's Office for 20 years. There's Michelle. Started off in the misdemeanor division and then moved into the juvenile area, and now is in CDC number 1 in the felony, in that felony court, district court. When I asked her about a memorable moment, she said, it's been some of the capital murder trials that I've had an opportunity to work on over the years that I've been with the county. When I asked her what she liked most, she said it's without question the people, the commitment to their job that each one of them have, and that, regardless of where they are, regardless of what they're doing, they're committed to making this a better place to, the county a better place to live, and making sure that they serve the citizens as they come through. She said the camaraderie in our office is just something that I've always appreciated and enjoyed. And she said, I've had an opportunity to work for two great folks in both Tim and in Joe, and she said it's been very fortunate from that standpoint. Michelle, we appreciate very much the 20 years you've given us. Thank you. Next is Dan Jordan with CSCD, 20 years. Started out in in Mansfield, and then to supervisor downtown, and that's where he is today. When I asked him about a more memorable moments, he said, I can think of a lot of things, but I'm not sure there's a whole lot of them we're going to talk about. He said, I really don't enjoy, talking that much or bragging that much, and he said it's just been a great run and a great career. When I asked him what he liked most, he said it was, it was the stability, it was the benefits, the friends and associates that he's had a chance to make over the 20 years he's been with the county. He said, it's a nice, steady, regular type job where you have an opportunity to help people and to see the effects of a lot of the work that you do. Dan, we appreciate very much the 20 years you've given. Thank you. Next is Ron Lewis with Juvenile Services, 20 years. Started there as a detention officer, now as a deputy assistant director over the institutional services, basically over all the operations of the detention center. When I asked him about his more memorable moments, it was when he was, he said, I was promoted to operations manager in the detention center. It was going to take place at midnight. And at 11:15, 3 people escaped. He said, I knew I was cooked. He said, I knew that was it. I wasn't going to make it. He said, everyone came, and they finally got everybody and got them back in there. He says, to this day, I'm still taking ribbon over the fact that 45 minutes before I got promoted, I let 3 people get loose. I don't think it was him that let them get loose, but he felt like it was going to have some effect. When I asked him what he liked most, it was the support and the opportunities that he had had for advancement in the department. He's another one of the Jerry Wood folks, products. He started as an intern, He said, I really appreciate the closeness of the department, the people he's had a chance to work with. He said, you know, I've worked with people from all over the state for a few years and get the experience before he came to the county. He's been proud to have had an opportunity to work with the county, and he said the leadership at all levels have been extremely supportive throughout his time with the county. We want to thank you again very much for the 20 years you've given. Next is Eddie Morrow, Facilities Management, 20 years. Started out in facilities in the old jail and was there for 7 years, and then moved over to the new jail and then to the Resource Center, and I believe that's where you are today. When I asked him what he liked most, he said he loves staying busy. He said, this is just not a job where you're going to sit around. He said, I love having an opportunity to work with my hands, and the people that he has a chance to work with day in and day out. He said, you know, really, as I look back over the 20 years, Tarrant County and the Facilities Department has been a great place to work. Eddie, we thank you very much for the 20 years you've given us. All right, here's the opportunity. Is there a William Paul in the house? Now, if some of you in the Sheriff's Department recognize him and he's sitting here, tell him to get up. I wasn't able to. Now, he works the third shift. So he didn't get off until about 7 a.m., so there's a lot of times when those folks don't make it. But when you see Mr. Paul, be sure and tell him and congratulate him on the 20 years that he gave, that he's given to Tarrant County. Next is Kelly Pierce, Cscd, 20 years. Kelly wasn't sure we're going to be able to make it down, so again, if you see Kelly, be sure and congratulate him on 20 years of service. Next, this person I've seen, Randy Wenra, our fire marshal. Stand up, Randy. Actually started off in the fire marshal's office as a deputy and became fire marshal in April of '98, I believe. When I asked him about the more memorable moments, he said, well, it's hurricanes and wildfires. And we can relate to that. When I asked him what he liked most, again, it was the people that he'd had a chance to work with. He said the job's always different. It's never a dull moment. And he said, you know, I've gotten to work with some great folks and gotten to know some folks not only within the county, but also at the federal and at the state and local government areas within Tarrant County. He said, I always wanted to be Tarrant County Fire Marshal. He enjoys doing his job, and he really doesn't even feel like it's a job. And he says, you know, over the years that I've been here, I really appreciate the help that he gets each year from Debbie and GK in helping him to kind of prepare and to do his job on an ongoing basis. Randy, we appreciate very much the 20 years you've given us. Thank you. Now, I mentioned Patricia Salinas, Juvenile Services, 20 years ago, joined, and you met her husband just a little while ago. She was going to be out of town today and wasn't able to make it. So as you see Patricia, be sure and congratulate her. And Greg, you tell her that we recognized her, and be sure and congratulate her again on the 20 years of service that she's given. Next is Mark Smith, who is with HIDA, North Texas HIDA. Has been there for 20 years. Started out in the Sheriff's Department as a clerk in the old jail at the age of 20. Then moved on to become a jailer in the Corrections Center. Said he'd worked in just about all areas of the jail, went to release and to patrol for a little bit, and is now in the HIDA area group in, I guess, out of Irving. You know, he said as a result of doing this, and one of the more memorable moments is that he's learned a lot of different facets to obtaining information, really from folks all over the world. When I asked him what he liked most, he said it was the opportunity to work with multiple agencies. He kind of does the intel for the HIDA group, and he's worked with people really all over the world. And it's you know, it's something that he's really learned, or that he really enjoys. He said, I've learned an awful lot of stuff. He said it carries you in a lot of different directions. and he's had a chance to work with a lot of different people. Again, he's worked in a lot of the different areas, and he said, I like that. He said, what I think kind of differentiates the county from maybe just a city is that you see not only the jail confinement, you see the warrants, you see investigations, you see patrol. You have an opportunity to really see just about all parts of the law enforcement area. He said, when I asked him if there was anything else, his comment was, I look forward to the second half of his career. And we certainly hope that you're here for another 20 years and appreciate everything you've done, Mark. Thank you. Next is Tony Stilts, with IT department, 20 years. Started out in the jail and the correction center for 5 years, and then moved over to the dispatch area, and now helped with the implementation of the CAD system, and then moved to IT and administers all of the dispatch systems. When I asked him about his more memorable moment, he said he didn't even have to blink. I mean, he just immediately said, well, when I was working on the jail, I was out kind of, doing a walk around on the 6th floor, and when I got back, the other officer there said, you need to go to the hospital. Your wife's having a baby. And his wife knew how to call and had called direct through and said, look, tell him not to worry about trying to come here to get me. I'm already heading for the hospital. So they did a quick, the Sheriff's Department helped in that regard. They did a quick, find a replacement, and he was off to the hospital and got there in time for the birth of his first son. When I asked him what he liked most, he said it was the family atmosphere, that everyone was willing to help out everyone else. He said, I enjoy the benefits and the pay, but it's just been a great place to work. The camaraderie has been great. And, Tony, we appreciate very much the 20 years you've given to Tarrant County. Now to our 25-year employees. Our first is Ophelia Alexander with the County Clerk's Office. 25 years in the criminal intake area. Started out in the county clerk, stamping and writing in the books. Now, this is not, what she had to do is she had a piece of charcoal, and you had to rub over the seal so that you could make sure, so that you could see the seal. We've come a long way. Now, did you furnish that charcoal?
Absolutely.
From there, she went to the marriage license department. Then she went into the mailroom, and now she is in the criminal intake area at as a bond forfeiture clerk, I believe. When I asked her about the more memorable moments, it was moving from the old building where the criminal courts had, the old criminal courts building, to the new Justice Center. It may have been getting rid of that charcoal, too. When I asked her what she liked most, she said it was the people. She said, I've been fortunate to work with some just really great people over the years. Loves her job. She said, I love the benefits that the county offers. When I asked her if there was anything else, she said, when I originally started work, I started as a temporary. She had moved here from Virginia, and she said, I was just so thankful that I got on with the county, and it has been such a great place to work. And it is, Ophelia, because of folks like you. Thank you very much for the 25 years. Next is Richard Heredia with IT. Richard started out as a clerk in the WIC program. That surprised you. You thought it was going to be in the IT areas. Then as an administrative assistant to the director in the community health promotions area, and then to IT as a fiscal services manager. When I asked him about the more memorable moment, he said, the moving to the IT area is something that he always remembers. He said it was a good move for me, and it's something that I'm real glad that I had an opportunity to do. When I asked him what he liked most, again, as so many folks do, he said it's the people that I have a chance to work with, the friends that I've had a chance to make, and he said the leadership that I've had a chance to work for over the years have really been something that I remember and take to heart. He said, I'm just real grateful that I had an opportunity to work for Tarrant County. And I tell you, Richard, we appreciate very much the 25 years you've given us. Thank you. Next is David Montgomery, CCC number 4. David wasn't sure he was going to be able to make it down, again, because of the caseload and what was going on in the court. He's the bailiff there in CCC number 4, so as you have an opportunity to see him, please congratulate him on his 25 years of service. Next is Bill Stilts, criminal sheriff crime scene investigation, 25 years. Started off in Belknap, and he said, when I started off there, we were wearing, the new folks would wear civilian clothes. Now, he said, I wasn't sure whether that was because they didn't have uniforms for us yet or they wanted to make sure that we were going to make it before they, and again, you know, a lot of times when I talk with folks who work in the jail, they said that the one thing they remember the most is the first time that jail door slams behind them and they walk in. So my guess is that may get to a few people, and they may decide they don't want to come back after that first night. He worked out at Cold Springs for a while, then moved into the booking area until 1998. Worked for APHIS, and then I guess when they were putting the APHIS in, then I think at some point they decided, well, we ought to have the APHIS folks go out and do crime scene investigation because then they could take the prints there, and so that's what he's doing now. When I asked him about the more memorable moments, he said, you know, over the 25 years, everything is just kind of blended together. He said one time we had someone come in and we ran the fingerprints, and it was someone who had been reported missing by their family. And I only caught about half of this because he was talking and I was trying to type, and my typing wasn't as fast as his talking. But I believe that this person had, you know, had meds that they should have been on, and they'd gotten off their meds, so they may not have been real sure where they were. But anyway, he was able to reunite them after years of this person missing. When I asked him what he liked most, again, it was the people. He said, I really enjoy the job and the people that he's had a chance to work with. He said, you know, he's gotten his Master's Peace Officer certification, which is the highest certification you can get as a peace officer, and then working with that APHIS. We appreciate, again, very much, Bill, the 25 years you've given to Tarrant County. Thank you. Next is Frederick Walters, Sheriff Department, Crime Scene Investigation, 25 years. There he is. Started out in the old jail and then moved over to operations, and over the years said, you know, I've had a chance to do a little bit of everything. He's had a chance to run the labor detail for several years, spent about 10 years in court security, and now is in the crime scene investigation area. Again, the more memorable moment was one of the shootings in the courtroom. When I asked him what he liked most, he said, you know, again, it was the people. He said, I've seen an awful lot of growth occur within Tarrant County. He said, I really appreciate the support that we get, not only from our officers in the Sheriff Department, but really from all the folks in Tarrant County. He said, I can't believe it's been 25 years. He said, it's gone by very, very quick. Again, Sergeant Walters, we thank you very, very much for the service you've given Tarrant County. Next is Gary Acree, Juvenile Services, 30 years. Started off in the Juvenile Services as a involuntary supervision area, then became a regular field officer. He was the first field specialized officer in the department, then became supervisor, and then went into the intake area. When I asked him about a more memorable moment, he said it's really kind of a composite of the people that he'd had a chance to learn from and the people that he had a chance to meet. But he said, you know, one of the other things that I remember is that one day I walked into the copy room, and this young man turned around, and it was someone who he had dealt with in the past. And that person had turned their life around, had come back, and had actually come to work for Tarrant County. And he said, you know, that really kind of left a lasting impression that I had made a difference, and that this person was now coming back and would hopefully have an opportunity to make a difference in the lives of young folks. When I asked him what he liked most, he said the fact that he had an opportunity to impact people in a very personal and genuine level, and the fact that he was given the leeway to work independent and given discretion in how to handle things as he dealt with individuals. He said, you know, the other thing that I appreciate over the 30 years is the support my family has given me. He said they really have supported me in everything that I've done, and a lot of that, you know, involves him going off and working with other folks' kids and maybe not having some time there as his own kids are growing up. Gary, thank you very much for your commitment to the kids and to the juveniles of Tarrant County for these last 30 years. Thank you. The last individual is not going to be able to be here today, Priscilla Pointer, 35 years. She is with the 324th District Court. She is on vacation for the first 2 weeks of December, and we talked, and I wouldn't have come back. So I told her I hope she had a great vacation and thanked her for her service, and I hope that you will do the same. Again, today we recognized 955 years of service, of public service to Tarrant County. Thank you all very much. Refreshments in 504. Thank you.
Hope you'll be around one night. LSU voted 279.
No, Oklahoma State beat Ohio, Oklahoma pretty bad. Yeah, that was Oklahoma State.
Yeah, Oklahoma State.
You have before, court members, you have before you the consent agenda.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Manius.
Member of the court, we can go to the administrator section on the first item. We're requesting that the court approve a contract between Tarrant County and Social Transportation for Seniors. This is to provide transportation services to senior citizens. We're also asking that the court authorize the county auditor to issue a check without first appearing on the claims register.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, on item number 2, we're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve an exception to the county's travel policy as relates to JP Precinct 2. This was a in-region conference that occurred in November, and the JP spent the night, so we're requesting that the court approve this exception to the travel policy.
Move for approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, on item number 3, we're requesting that the court approve an intergovernmental cooperative reimbursement agreement between Tarrant County and the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. This relates to the LIRAP program.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, on item number 4, we're requesting that the court approve letters to Senators Cornyn and Hutchinson as it relates to pending federal legislation affecting the size and weight of big trucks on the national highway system and local roads and bridges. Mr. Mendez had included in the court packet a fairly lengthy court communication as it relates to this particular issue, basically just touching the high points. This particular piece of legislation, or part of this legislation, would increase the weight of trucks from about 80,000 pounds to 97,000 pounds. It would also allow for a sixth axle. By the way, the weight gain is almost 20%. The damage that it would do to state highway or to the federal highway system is estimated about $65 billion. The problem is that these trucks don't stay on the highways; they get on our roads. And so we're requesting that the court take a position that opposing the increase in the weight and the sixth axle.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Has there been any investigation, any study to see how much additional stopping distance there is for those bigger trucks?
Mr. Mendez.
From a public safety standpoint.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Specifically, there is no answer to your question, but that is a concern of opponents to this pending legislation. There are certainly safety concerns because of the added weight would increase the stopping distance on those big trucks. That doesn't impact the infrastructure itself, but it is a safety issue.
Along with this, hadn't there also been some efforts to go with the triple trailers?
That's correct, sir. And part of the letter is support for Senate Resolution 876, which is the Safe Highways and Infrastructure Preservation Act, and that would impose a cap to the size of trucks, including
Prohibition against
what they call turnpike doubles and triple trailers and those types of things. So a lot of this legislation is pending on the Senate side. It looks like those bills will be the first to come up in the new session. Senator Hutcherson sits on the Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee, which Senate Resolution 1450 is going to come before, and the Senate Resolution 747 is before the Finance Committee, and Senator Cornyn's on that particular committee. So that's why it's imperative that we get our request for action to them specifically.
The point of my question was, yes, there are fiscal concerns in terms of damages to our roads and infrastructure. But let's not forget the impact on public safety when we deal with these issues.
Have we voted on that one?
No.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the Court, if we can go to item number 6, we're requesting that the Court approve 3 pre-disaster mitigation grant projects as listed in your court communication.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 6. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Do we need to go back to item 5? That's hold. I'm sorry, I missed that.
Thank you, Your Honor. Under the District Attorney's Office, we have 2 subrogation checks that we're requesting authorization for the auditor to cash. The first one's the amount of $14,664.17, and the second one is the amount of $1,440.12.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Ms. Glenn?
Good morning.
Morning.
We have 3 items for the court this morning. The first item, we're asking the court to receive and file the very large personnel agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
If we could skip to item 3, please, and then go back to 2. With item 3, we're asking the court to approve the extension of project employment in information technology. Currently, IT is using an individual to backfill a programmer analyst supervisor position. The incumbent of that position is actually assigned to the IGES project. IT is requesting the extension through January of 2013. The fiscal impact to the general fund is estimated to be a little bit more than $62,800, excluding fringe benefits. There is funding available in the 2012 budget to cover this expense.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
If we can go back to item 2, we're asking the court to approve the annually determined contribution rate to the Texas County and District Retirement System. So we're back again. We were here, if the court recalls, a couple of months ago. We had Christina Acuna, who's our representative in Austin. She's here again today with us. And at that time, if the court recalls, she gave us an overview, as she's done for the past 4 years, talked a little bit about our assets and liabilities. What we're here today to see if the court's ready to move forward with is a decision about our contribution rate for 2012. We've had some discussion, of course, about COLA adjustments for our retirees. And then finally, we've had some discussion about unfunded liability. You should have there a blue sheet. And on your blue sheet, you'll see a couple of items for the court's consideration. Far left column, and again, these would be options for 2012. You can see the current plan with no COLA adjustment would represent a 12.99 increase, or not increase, but rate, rather, for 2012. And then you can see far right column, the 80% CPI COLA. If the court were to decide to do that, you could see the rate would then increase to 13.16%. Now, the columns in between, of course, represent options less than 80% of CPI. The very last row on that document, the numbers at the bottom represent the amount of money that would be required if the court was so determined to actually pre-fund, if the court wished to, any of those options. So that's what we're here today to discuss. And again, staff's available for questions, and Ms. Acuna is here as well.
What was CPI?
1.5.
This year.
Okay. Questions, discussion, motion? No action means that we keep column 1. or column 2, depending on how you want it. The first column of numbers to the current plan.
Which does not include a COLA?
Correct.
Correct.
Well, for the sake of discussion, let's start at the right side of the column and see if we end up somewhere in between. I will move that we adopt the contribution with an 80% COLA, which we have done every year since 1994.
We have a motion. Dies for a lack of second.
On the 50%, I'm just asking. And if we paid that, the 285, 286,
Yes, sir.
obviously that would not increase our unfunded actuary liability.
It would not add to the unfunded liability. That's correct.
If we did that, roughly how many employees would receive?
I don't know that we know a number, Commissioner Johnson, and I'll ask Christina to be close by in case she does have a number. Because, as Commissioner Brooks pointed out, because the court has actually approved an 80% CPI dating back to 1994, we're anticipating that if the court were to adopt the 50% of CPI for next year, that very few of the retirees would actually receive any sort of an increase to their annuity, because for all intents and purposes, the 80% of CPI has actually addressed any loss in earning power.
But very, very few. How many would that be? Because $295,000 or $86,000 is a lot of money if you're only going to get a handful of people that get a raise out of that.
Unfortunately, I can't give you an accurate number. We would have to perform a COLA study, which we can do. And then what that COLA study would do is it would take into account all of your approximately 1,600 retirees, and it would show them what their current monthly benefit is, and then it would show them what it would be based on a 50% CPI COLA or whichever COLA you're considering. But without that report, I can't tell you.
50%, you'd go back 10 years. Is it just 10 years, or do you go back forever?
It's the entire time that we look at each, with those CPIs, we look at each retiree, we take them into account, and we look at however long they've been retired, and we would assess how much cumulative lost buying power that retiree has lost. And then with a 50% CPI COLA, you're saying we are going to replace 50% of what CPI has been throughout all their years in retirement. Since you have been passing consistently that 80% CPI COLA, based on the marginal cost impact, I think it raises your required rate by 1 basis point. What that's telling me is that it will have a minimal impact on those retirees that have been retired for 3+ years, because passing that 80% CPI has already got them caught up to that 50% level. That 50% CPI is really going to affect those retirees that are newly retired. You have to be retired at least 13 months to be eligible to receive a COLA benefit.
And the same thing with to receive any kind of an increase, you have to have been retired for 13 months.
That is correct.
And so in the past, when we talked about this, I think we were of the impression that if we did a COLA, if we missed a year and came back to a COLA increase, then we had to make up the year, and so that was the reason we may have kept that going from that standpoint. What we do understand now is that if we were to take the flat amount, the Board of Directors at TCDRS has an opportunity basically to allow us to, instead of doing a COLA, to pick a flat amount. And the flat amount this year is either 1% or 2%. And it used to be that the legislature passed a law a couple of years ago that limited the amount of increase to something around the CPI.
Yes.
And because previous to that, some counties, we've never done that, but some counties were actually giving 8, 9, 10% increases to their retirees. So the legislature came in and said, no, we're going to cap that at a certain amount. The board then chose to, at least this year, chose to say, well, it's 1.5%, we're going to round down or we're going to round up, and those are the two flat amounts. The board each year can decide what alternatives they're going to give with regards to the flat amounts. One of the things that I asked during our meeting was to take back to the board the possibility of us being allowed to do either 0.5% or 0.25% increases up to whatever the cap was, instead of just giving us two amounts to go to. A couple of years ago, we went ahead and, we've always, like I said, since '94, we've always given the 80% of CPI, but again, I don't think we were fully familiar with the fact that we could have given the flat amount. So,
if we take no action,
then we stay with the current plan.
which is 80%?
No. We stay with the current column over there. It would be no increase in the retirees. And you say there's been a 1%, 1.5% cost of living increase.
Let me ask a question. Given our current financial situation, and given a historical trend of increasing cost in terms of pay raises and in terms of COLA and so forth, what is sustainable financially? What is the recommended action that would be sustainable financially for Tarrant County in the long run? Does anybody have any input?
If you're looking for a single number, I don't know if there is a single number that is agreed upon either at staff level or at the court level. The only thing I can tell you is that out of the 12, almost 13% that we have here, a little over 5 cents of that, or 5% of that, is going to address the unfunded liability, and which is, well, you see with the unfunded liability issues on the COLA. The unfunded liability is approximately $44 million, and so we do 2.12 or 2.11 cents or percent on that to address that particular element. So that's as much information as we have on that. Quite frankly, I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Not really.
You've got about 600 different entities in the system right now.
Approximately 600.
Give me an idea of the people you've heard from. How many have gone up? How many people, one, have you heard from? How many of them have moved up, have stayed the same, or?
I don't have statistics on the history of what the particular entities that have elected to adopt COLAs this year have done in the past. Out of 630 employers in the system, we have, as of yesterday, we have received 44 of those entities have elected to adopt a COLA for 2012.
44?
44. Last year,
Out of about 700?
out of 630.
630.
Last year, 80 employers chose to adopt a COLA for their retirees.
Last year.
These retirees got COLAs when our employees did not receive raises back a couple of times, too, didn't they?
That's right.
I'll make a motion, we take no action. Or I guess we
Adopt the current plan. We can either
make a motion to adopt the
current plan. We have a motion.
I'll second for discussion.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the current plan. Any discussion?
Any COLA that we give, it will hit the unfunded liability directly.
That is correct.
So if we adopt an 80% CPI, the unfunded liability would be increased by $4 million.
Approximately, yes.
Right? The only way for us to contain the current unfunded liability of $151 million is to pay for it with cash up front.
Then you wouldn't be adding to it from
We
a
would be
benefit
adding to it.
selection. Correct.
Okay. And that's okay.
But just for make sure, Commissioner Wynn, that the motion, if it's the current plan does not include any COLA.
Yes, sir.
Right, no COLA.
And that would be the rate of 12.99%. Contribution rate would be 12.99%.
Any other discussion?
Just that it should be pointed out that a large portion or some portion of the unfunded liability, or most of it, is beyond our control. A lot of it is tied to investment earnings, which have been not very good the last few years.
Well, I mean, it was terrible in 2008. It was fantastic in 2009.
That was compared to 2008.
Well, I mean, 55% in 2009. It lost, I don't know how much in 2008.
Negative, roughly about negative 28.
And then in 2010, it was
8.
12.8. This year, it's down through September.
Correct.
So you're right. I mean, it does impact that.
Market fluctuations do affect our unfunded liability.
Absolutely.
Because of the unpredictability of the market, I tend to think that the court members would agree with me that we need to kind of sit down and look at ways to proactively at least contain or pay down the unfunded liability in the long run.
Well, we've talked about, again, in January when we look at that. I mean, I hope that we can make some payments, but I appreciate your motions to do that. We've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes 4-1.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Brewer?
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
We have one item for your approval today, and this is a new Texas Department of State Health Services grant for the year 2012, or a partial year. It's a preparedness and prevention grant, and it's a risk-based pilot project.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Mr. Beecham.
Your Honor, other members of the court, we have 3 items for your consideration this morning. Our first item is a bid award recommendation for bid number 2012-017, concerning a contract for automotive and light truck repair. Recommendation would be to award on a per enterprise basis, awarding to 5 Star Ford.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 2 is another bid award recommendation for bid number 2012-020. This is our annual contract for modular furniture with movable and demountable walls. Recommendation would be to award a per enterprise basis, awarding Category A to Royer and Schutz, Categories B and C to Business Interiors by Staples.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our last item is also a bid award recommendation for RFP number 2012-014. This is an RFP for substance abuse for outpatient services, for outpatient treatment services for Cscd. Our recommendation is to award on per contract terms, awarding to the 6 vendors meeting all specifications, as shown in your court communique.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Jack, wait a minute. I meant to ask the question, but we were moving fast.
Yes, sir.
On item 2, you had 2 bid. You basically only had 1 bidder. Is that correct?
2. Royer and Schutz.
One didn't bid, did they?
They didn't bid on the on the B and C categories, I believe.
Okay. from a modular furniture there.
Yes, sir.
And then the other one didn't bid on it.
Yes, sir.
Kind of like they split it up. Never mind.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Skinner.
Members of the court, we are requesting your approval of the renewal of interlocal agreements with the City of Fort Worth related to two projects in the 2006 Transportation Bond Program.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Any appointments?
No.
You have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
A motion second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Maynes?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Being no briefing items, we'll recess from open session and move to closed session to discuss items exempted under sections 551.071, 072, 074, 076, and 087 of the Texas Government Code.